Hi, I'm Al,
Hi, I'm Janae.
and we're back for another episode of All Roads Lead to with Al and Janae. And today we're talking about one of our favorite topics, not only sports, but specifically the coaches that are there in the NCAA tournament, 2021 tournament. Has been kind of full of what it usually is with the surprises, but also some constants that you expect. I always like to say that the players, they are the engine of the tournament, but the coaches, they actually are the drivers. So, first of all, shout out to all of the coaches, whether you're a coach in the elementary
Yeah.
school level, high school, college, no matter what. Hey, big hand clap and appreciation to you. Coaches mean a whole lot, don't they?
They absolutely do, and they really balance so many different things. And I look at no matter what level, parents are super invested in everything that they do, and depending on at each level, there's pressure to perform to get the most out of the players, and they have to really navigate so many different pressures, and often underappreciated in many cases, sometimes undercompensated. At the local and high school levels, often you have times when if it's rec or other things, you may be volunteering or doing this in addition to something else. And then for those who commit it as a career and time, there's just so much volatility sometimes with that. And so we look at those who are kind of mainstays, and often that is kind of like the standard, but there's so many other coaches who we find really kind of taking the hits when different things happen that cause unexpected results, and sometimes they're things out of their control. So big props to coaches. They are the constant, and really without them, no matter what type of team you form, the coaches really make such an integral part of taking teams to the winning level.
Absolutely. So, ladies, first, we want to start out talking about the ladies coaches first. So, we want to give a shout out to a couple of NCAA women's coaches.
Yes. First, I love to give a shout out to Don Staley.
Okay.
Who was one of my favorite players back in the day, and is now the coach of the Gamecocks in University of South Carolina. I remember looking at some of the footage and of that last moments really of the game with Stanford, and there were some comparisons to the loss that she had as a player in Virginia. And so just looking back at that, though, I was really encouraged, as she was saying, I've been able to put that behind me and kind of move on and encourage her star players to do the same. But she has just been an amazing force to be reckoned with, really, on the women's side of the ball and the tournament.
Great. And I also want to shout out Coach Adia Barnes of the University of Arizona for the women's basketball team there. She's just notable for so many things, not only her coaching ability, but also her husband is on her staff as one of her coaches.
Nice.
So they're right there on the bench together during the championship game when they played Stanford this year. She came out a little late at halftime, and people were wondering for a while, hey, where's Coach Barnes and everything? Right. But she's also has a newborn, and so
she was pumping.
Exactly. She was pumping. So again, shout out to her, really guiding her team. Came up just a little short in the championship game, but again, big appreciation to Coach Barnes and to Coach Staley. On the men's side of things, again, you had Coach Mark Few with Gonzaga, leading them to an undefeated regular season, and so many things that they did in the tournament, and also I've got to say, what was the game of the year for me? The game of the tournament was not the championship game, but was really the Final Four game between Gonzaga and UCLA.
Yes.
Okay. And you can go back and you can look at and see what happened. Spoiler alert here. Gonzaga wins on literally a last second three to win the game.
Yes,
okay,
it's gonna be a classic.
yes, it's an instant classic. UCLA, but UCLA gave their all. I mean, their absolute all. And what stood out for me was watching an interview of UCLA's coach Mick Cronin at the end. They said, well, coach, what did you say to your guys after the game? What were your words to them? And he kind of looked at the person at the camera, really, and said in response to that question, he said, I said to them, what more could I have asked of them? They really gave their all. And he said, you gave me your all, you gave the school their its all. And so what a thing for a coach to say in that moment after these guys are literally crying. They are heartbroken, not expecting to lose like that. But really a coach, it just reminded me again of the opportunity that is there when you are in coaching scenarios to influence and impact people, not just on their moments when they're having highs, but when you're devastated. I mean, when literally the bottom has dropped out, the opportunity for a coach to really give some great influence there. And so shout out to those. And then, with this year's tournament, especially in 2021, we saw coaches that really kind of came back to where it all started for them. I kind of think of, I almost want to play the theme for Welcome Back Kotter right now. Welcome back, your dreams were your ticket out. And, the context of Welcome Back Kotter, a TV show where a student at a school came back to actually be a teacher at that same school. And so that's the whole Welcome Back Kotter context. But I mean, we had two coaches in particular that we want to highlight, at least right now, that came back. The first is Coach Patrick Ewing, coach of the Georgetown Hoyas.
Yeah, I think going to your point too, I just want to say that the coaches that you're describing, and even when we see with UCLA, that's what you want to send your children to play for. That's the type of person that you want to entrust your child to, and that sentiment that you can put the players above the outcome or the final score, I think is really so crucial. And I think to see so much monetizing and so much commercialization of sports at such an early stage. I mean, almost from the AAU level now and earlier on. And so to see that, I think that's what engenders me to the tournament in a sense, is like the human element of it. And I think, in so many ways, professional basketball has lost some of that to me to a degree. And I think even with these players leaving so early now from college, we're losing some of, I think, that continuity sometimes of having that 4-year player and all that you can see the growth over the, successive tournaments of certain players. And getting to that point, I think what I love about Patrick Ewing and some of the players that we'll probably discuss a little bit who have come back to their teams is that we kind of got to see them grow with their coaches over the course of tournaments. Wow. And that's what I love about Pat Ewing and that dynamic that he had with John Thompson. And so for me, what is so special about seeing him come back is that it feels like an extension of a bigger legacy. And it's an extension of John Thompson's legacy, but I think also of that development and, that growth. And I think there's a call to me in a sense of that time when there was more of that happening, and not to diminish that, there was still definitely, a lot of commercialism and a lot of, staging and things around those players. But I guess in the sense, maybe some of it is a little bit, I guess you kind of idealize it a little bit. But I definitely feel that him coming back though is a extension of the Thompson legacy, and I'm really excited to see that. And it was so, and I think also of the philosophy of basketball that John Thompson really indoctrinated to me at Georgetown, and I'm seeing some of that come out. He's definitely coaching his own way, but there's definitely, I think, a lot of the philosophy that was there under Thompson coming out on the basketball side. So it's great to see. I'm super excited to see him back with Georgetown.
And we've talked about Coach Thompson in an earlier episode, so you can kind of hear our thoughts about that. But you go from John Thompson Jr. Talking about Georgetown now. And then when he left, it went to Craig Esherick, who was the coach then. And then the team kind of went on from there. And then and there's another pressure I think that is there when John Thompson III became the coach there. So I mean, that's literally the Thompson name. That is
Yeah.
all of that, and we can probably talk about that at a different time as well. And so now with Patrick Ewing coming in, there is, like you're saying, a reflection or a mirror back to that legacy of from 1982 when they were in the championship game against North Carolina, of them being the powerhouses and part of the engine of the Big East coming on. So to see Georgetown, especially win the Big East tournament on a very, significant special day, and you go back and you can hear our thoughts about that on our Facebook Live that we did for that. All the thoughts are there, so I don't want to repeat that right here necessarily right now. But again, seeing these people in these roles, there is a whole lot of nostalgia
there is. Yes,
that it brings. I think it is unfair, though, to look at these individuals and kind of only look at them backwards.
True.
Because we're kind of in a context, and it's something we all do. I'm saying myself included. It's something we all do, and we kind of want that old time, but it's interesting to be able to see as well. The other coach that has gone back to their school that we want to highlight, at least right now, is Coach Juan Howard of the Michigan Wolverines, and again, who just happened to be for this season the AP Coach of the Year.
Well deserved.
And again, what I like about Juwan Howard, especially at Michigan, he is not just window dressing. He's not just a name there just to be a name. For those of you listening to, if you never looked up anything about the Fab Five, I want to recommend that you look up the ESPN documentary, the Fab Five, which is, again, I think I've said it on an earlier episode, but this I will repeat here and now. Every time it comes on, I watch the entire thing. It's just that good. And that's our time.
Yes, it's a golden era. I won't say that it's, the best era, but that, to me, that 80s, mid 80s to mid 90s NCAA era for me was golden. And that Fab Five, the Carolina, the Duke team at that time, I mean, that, and the documentary really looks at the recruits for a lot of, the Division I schools, the top basketball schools. We're looking at a lot of the same players, and it's just phenomenal to see Juwan Howard particularly coming back. I remember Steve Fisher, the Michigan coach of Fab Five, saying, he wasn't necessarily the most gifted or most talented player, but he was such a hard worker and such a determined player that, he was one of his top players because of his work ethic and for the heart that he had for the game. And just recently, just reading some pieces about him. I mean, he's from Chicago. His parents had some struggles with addictions, and so his grandmother raised him. But he was saying that basketball, the structure, the discipline of basketball is what saved him. And so I really always admired, I felt like he was a mature player. Even, at Michigan, it seemed like there was just a maturity about him. And when you read it, I was reading some of just background of his love for coaching, and that he had been coaching in Miami, but really was a little dismayed with the entitlement that so many players had. And it didn't remind him really of the loves that he had for basketball at that same stage, because it wasn't as much the glitz and the glamour and the lights of basketball. It was the grind of basketball that really was a driver for him. And so it really seems that that's what he's putting into the coaching side of it. And it's really beautiful to see him nurturing that in students and in players. And there is a synergy that you sense between he and his players that they just really seem to, just ball out for him. And it's really great to see.
Yeah. And it's amazing. One of the things for me, Jeanette, is to realize that we are at this kind of stage now where the people who we saw playing in college are now coming back to be coaches. And again, at different stages. And again, Patrick Ewing had a different career, and at least NBA wise, that was of a different timing than Juwan Howard's as far as their start dates and their end dates.
Right.
But nevertheless, kind of seeing these people that we did watch growing up, seeing them come back. And so again, we don't want to put all the pressure of our nostalgia on them as coaches, but I'm sure if we were able to get a chance to interview them, hint, hint, Patrick Ewing, hint, hint, Juwan Howard, we would love to find out what it's like. And I'm sure they've been asked this many times, but really what it is to be back. I know, there's some places you always say, hey, always love to come back and do this here where you've been before. And for them to do it and do it in the way that they're doing it right now is something that's really great to see.
Absolutely. And I think it really gives an opportunity to extend the legacy for both of them, although not necessarily to look backwards, but also to look forward, because I think with so much of the controversy and so much that happened with the Fab Five, I think it's great to see and hopefully see some kind of almost, I don't know if you would call it reconciliation, but some synergy and some connectedness between what that group of guys brought to Michigan lore and to the acclaim of Michigan basketball, and to see him extending that, and hopefully the goodwill that was brought by them playing as freshmen, and just coming to such a high level of basketball so early in their college careers, and now seeing him be able to nurture and grow a team and really bringing them into back into the really top seed and to a great place, and they definitely had that in the years past as well. But I just think that's a great connection and kind of full circle moment that I think is really sweet. There's a sweetness to that. And similarly with Pat Ewing in that way. So I'm really excited in like you're saying, I think it's two different I guess energy, or two different journeys in a sense, but definitely really excited to see them come back. And I think there is that throwback aspect of it.
Yeah.
Where you really get to kind of, have a different way of connecting with some of the things you really loved about basketball during your youth. So thanks to them for those throwbacks.
And, real quick in passing, we want to also give a shout out to Coach Hubert Davis, who has been selected to succeed Coach Roy Williams as coach of University of North Carolina. And so, again, another kind of college system where they are keeping it within the family, so to speak.
Yeah, good point. So I hope Grant Hill or Jeff Capel get a good look at him in Duke as well. So just a little little foreshadowing. We hope for that situation at some point down the road, but I'm sure it's down the road. Coach K still putting it down.
And in closing, I want to just kind of give a shout out to one of our coaches, Coach James Roddy. Is someone who we lost at the end of 2020, right at the end of 2020, but who was just a model of a person, as a man, and of a coach in every sense of the word. And so these men that we are talking about today, when I think of people who've been influential in our lives in a direct and indirect way, Coach James Roddy is definitely one that comes up.
Oakwood University Ambassadors.
Oakwood University Ambassadors. So thank you for joining us for this episode of All Roads Lead To with Al and Janae.